Hi everyone, I'm MacKenzie with the Beaverton City Library at the Murray Shoals branch, and today I'm here to tell you some of my favorite sweet recipes that I like to cook during the winter season when it's chilly outside. All right, I have three different cookbooks. Three different cookbooks I'm going to talk about, all of which you can check out from the library and all of which I actually own. So let's get started. Our first cookbook today is Betty Crocker's cookbook. Now, the one that we have at the library, this one, at the very least, is the 2016 edition. I don't own this one. I own the 1969 edition. And I've looked at the recipes and I've compared, and they're not exactly the same. So I can't say that my chocolate chip cookie recipe from this cookbook is going to turn out exactly the same as a chocolate chip cookie recipe from this cookbook. However, Betty Crocker, I feel like her recipes are tried and true and would, have a very special reason to change them. So first off, I love Betty Crocker's chocolate chip cookie recipe. It is so dang good. For the longest time, I was using the Cook's Illustrated recipe, and I love Cook's Illustrated, don't get me wrong. But whenever I made them, it was always hit or miss. It would either turn out how I wanted it was perfect, or something would happen, like the cookies would spread, and that's not what I wanted. So I went to visit my sister one weekend, and she made chocolate chip cookies, and they were just picture perfect. And I asked her, "Sister, what recipe did you use?" And she said, "Betty Crocker." So ever since then, I have used this recipe, and it has not failed me since. I feel like it's very consistent. Next Betty Crocker cookie recipe that I really like is what the cookbook calls ginger snaps. Right up here. But I don't call them ginger snaps. I actually call them molasses crinkles. When I think of a ginger snap, it snaps. It's a crunchy, thin cookie, but these are more like molasses crinkles, where they're a soft cookie, and they kind of have that like crackly texture, but it's still a very soft cookie, and you roll them in sugar, and they're delicious. So these I usually make around Christmas time. They've got those flavors like cinnamon and ginger and cloves, and it just makes your kitchen and your home just smell amazing. This recipe, at least, it makes a lot of cookies. So this one, the cookbook says 4 dozen cookies. That's 48. That's a lot of cookies. So I usually, like I said, make them around Christmas and give them away to people, because I live alone, and I don't need 48 cookies in my home. All right, that was Betty Crocker. Next, we have one of my most used cookbooks, and this is the Smitten Kitchen Cookbook by Deb Perelman. As you can see, this is the one I own, and it's fallen to pieces. At least the cover is. It's well worn. It's well loved. I've got all these tabs for some of my favorite recipes, and I've got food splattered on the pages inside. So I use it a lot. So the one I want to talk about from this cookbook is actually a breakfast treat, and it is the Gingerbread Spice Dutch Baby right here. Oh, it's so good. I love ginger and cloves and all those things, and cinnamon. It's got some nutmeg. It's so super good. So what you do, I love this recipe because it's so easy. You take the ingredients, you put them in your food processor, you mix it up, and then you pour it into your prepared pan, and start it off on the stove, and then move it into the oven, and it finishes in the oven, and you have like a big pan-sized baked pancake Dutch baby, and it's delicious. It's great with syrup. It's great with powdered sugar and lemon juice. Just so yummy. A nice treat on a chilly winter morning. All right, last but not least, Smitten Kitchen Every Day by Deb Perelman. Triumphant and unfussy new favorites. So I've got, I want to start off with a cookie recipe. And this is literally a recipe for 2 cookies. It's called 2 thick, chewy oatmeal raisin chocolate chip mega cookies. And they're mega cookies. So this is a nice treat to make when you just want a treat, but you don't want to make 4 dozen cookies, right? So this recipe, I want to say it's based off of the oatmeal raisin cookie recipe that is on the back of the Quaker oatmeal lid. That's what I use for my oatmeal cookies, and it's delicious. And this recipe, she uses chocolate chips and raisins. I'm not a huge fan of raisins, so I will sub out dried cranberries or dried cherries, whichever one I have on hand. But yeah, it's good. When I saw this recipe, I was like, oh, this is what you've been needing. You've been wanting a little treat, and this is a little treat. All right, last but not least, I have the Wintery apple bake with a double ginger crumble. I love ginger. I think I've mentioned this before. And I made this recipe for the first time this past winter and fall. My brother has an apple tree in his yard. He gave me a lot of apples, and I was like, what am I going to do with all these apples before they go bad? So I used this recipe. I didn't have everything in the recipe. Like, I didn't have the candied ginger, and it was okay. It still turned out really great. Really gingery and appley and yummy, yummy, yummy. So those are my favorite sweet winter recipes. I hope that you found a new recipe to make and a new cookbook to try out. Thanks so much for tuning in.